So, how many times have you been filming an event or performance and then you see the overheating symbol? The camera then shuts off and you're rushing around trying to get the camera back on, but the symbol is still there. Introducing the camera cooler by a7iv Design. Simply switch it on, place into the back of the camera, and within seconds the overheating symbol disappears. And with that, you can now film all day without worry of overheating. This is the a7iv Design camera cooling fan. It's lightweight, quiet, uses widely available AAA batteries, including rechargeable ones, lasts all day and easily attaches to most modern mirrorless cameras in a myriad of ways. Also, with a few Sony cameras, it simply just slides on. I've been making DIY camera fans for a few years. Ever since upgrading from my original Sony a7S, I've noticed a lot of cameras overheat, especially when shooting 4K. Prior to using camera fans, I was having to shoot in lower quality or record to an external recorder. For my work, I often need to shoot for hours on end, and it was such a relief to find a solution for extended filming sessions. Now, of course, camera manufacturers make cameras with built-in fans or bigger cinema-style bodies, but these cameras often cost more than double the amount of the cheaper options with the same sensor. My early attempts of these DIY fans were very cobbled together, with no real system or method for properly attaching to the camera, and relied completely on external power, which meant that I couldn't use it handheld or with a gimbal. So, after I made this prototype, I realised there was a simpler design in there somewhere. I drew up some ideas and thought about how to make a product. Initially, I was going to leave the design and construction up to someone else. I have had little to no experience in product design, and I've never used 3D rendering software before. But after some time thinking about this, I decided to give Fusion 360 a go, and within a day I already had an outline of my first prototype. I then looked on Facebook Marketplace and found a second-hand 3D printer for very cheap. Before then, I'd wrongly assumed it was just expensive and tricky to use. In the past, I've been using Connects, Lego, duct tape, and whatever I had lying around to create rudimentary prototypes and tools around the house, so moving to 3D printing has been a game changer for me. So this is the camera cooling fan. It took me over 2 dozen iterations and weeks of trial and error to get to this point, but I'm very proud of what I created. Now, of course, there are mass-produced camera fans you can buy from camera accessory companies like a7iv, Small Rig, but what I've found to be their limitations, I have expanded on and created in some ways a superior product. Firstly, battery life. So for example, this a7iv fan will last around an hour, which is fine if you're not filming for much longer than that, or have a few of them to hand. And you could argue that there's a charging port on there so you can film indefinitely that way. But as my stress tests will reveal later on in the video, when charging the fan, the camera will overheat quicker. Compared to that fan, mine lasts 8 hours with these rechargeable batteries and around 20 hours with regular alkaline ones. AAA batteries are widely available and relatively cheap as well. Next is attachability, if that's a word. Now, I have the original a7iv fan which uses suction cups. As you can see, that doesn't work so well, and I've superglued on this elastic band hook over the viewfinder of my camera. On other cameras though, this doesn't work so well. You only get 2 back stickers included in the box, so I'd say attachment implementation is fairly poor. The new version of this fan has a much better system, uses a spring, but makes the unit overall thicker and heavier. And when looking online at all the other camera fans you can buy, they often fall short at this point. Some use sticky materials or having to attach Velcro, some including specific types of spacers for each type of camera which are cumbersome and very easy to lose, not to mention a pain to set up and pack away each time. One fan I saw included a couple of small elastic bands to place around the camera and the fan to hold it against the camera body, which might work on a lot of cameras but not all of them. So when designing my attachment system, I wanted it to be universal to pretty much any camera with a flip out screen. I looked into many different combinations of hoops and holes in the design and finally settled on this. Firstly, the actual shape of the unit means that for cameras such as the Sony a7S III, a7 IV and a zv-e1, the fan simply slots into the gap behind the screen and just stays in place. For the other cameras, there's a system I designed that does use elastic, but in a way that does not disrupt any cables and can be placed in multiple orientations to avoid blocking important buttons. Using longer elastic also means it can be used with any size camera, and the hook system means you can quickly pop the fan off within moments. I'm so proud of this system, and although I did spend some time looking for similar length black elastic to keep it looking sleek, I am shipping this product with the long, regular coloured elastic, as that's what's most available. That said, the system is designed in a way that you can use any material of your own choice. Next is the openness of the design, which prioritises repairability and upgradability. This is a result of early tests using fiddly circuitry and wanting to create a DIY kit which anyone could build themselves with tape and scissors. My friends and family convinced me to sell this as a completed unit, however, which means the fan is ready to go out of the box, as long as you provide your own AAA batteries. Speaking of which, you'll need 4 rechargeable or non-rechargeable AAAs. That's one or the other, don't mix rechargeable with non-rechargeable. That's because the voltage is actually 1.2 volts on rechargeable and 1.5 volts on non-rechargeable. 4 of which in series makes about 4.8 volts or 6 volts respectively. This is right in the operating range of the 5 volt fans that come included. The wiring inside is made of 3 connections that connect together, 2 battery packs and a fan. There's no on and off switch. To turn the fan on, you take the battery, which is held in the front compartment, and complete the circuit. This also means there's no accidental way of turning the fan on. This, I think, is the biggest selling point compared to any other fan you can buy. It is so very simple and completely repairable, from using replaceable batteries to having clipping parts and not using any glue. The last selling point is that it is 3D printed, so the material is light and can be printed in any colour you want. I'm offering it in these 4 base colours, but if you want something even more crazy, message me and we can maybe work something out. Oh, and just because it's 3D printed does not mean it's not strong. So I've been asked a few times, does the fan work? And I can say absolutely that it does. I've done so many tests with different cameras and found it will either extend the recording time substantially or even indefinitely. I even rented out a Sony zv-e1 high performance cinema level camera that uses the same sensor as the well known FX3 but in a small plastic body. The results of the test were quite interesting. I found that recording in 4K in anything other than the standard frame rate would overheat quite quickly. The Ulanzi fan often did slightly better in my tests, but if you had that fan plugged in and charging, it performed worse than the one I've made. This is probably the most difficult benchmark I could put the fan through, and even with a more powerful cooling solution, recording in 4K 120 frames a second on that camera for extended periods is always going to be difficult. So that is the a7iv design camera cooler, my first consumer product. And if you had asked me a year ago about bringing a product to market, it would have been the last thing on my mind, as all the things I made prior to this are so niche and often cobbled together. I would prefer just to share videos of my little inventions in a hope that people are inspired to create their own. I am now, however, motivated to create more commercial products, but also share some of my designs along the way, so I've opened a MakerWorld account which I'll be submitting many of my creations for you to print yourself. On my page I've also included a free USB-C powered version of the fan, which will fit cameras with a tilting screen instead, and is a nice evolution of design that got me started on all of this. Cheers for watching the video guys, and I'll catch you in the next one.